Hi, I'm Margaret Lewin and welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. Today we are going to be finishing up our case and point bag. Now this is a pattern by Annie, and that's the name of it. It's called Patterns by Annie, and I believe her website is just by Annie, so B-Y-A-N-N-I-E. So here is my bag. It's all done, and I'm going to take you through all the rest of the steps today of putting it together. Thank you so much for joining me, and if you'd like to see how I finished up our bag, stick around and I'll show you. All right, next we need to move on to the next two things. The first one being we need to take our, let's see, which piece is this one? The next thing we need to do is we need to prepare our front zipper pocket, and we are also going to prepare our back zipper pocket, but I'm going to start with the front one first. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your zipper and you're going to do the same thing that I did on our last tutorial, and I'll link it down below or over in one of the cards so that you can see it. But what you're going to do is you're going to take your zipper, you're going to make certain that the zip is out of the way, and I'm just going to move mine up a little bit, and then you're going to clip it to the long edge of our front zipper pocket. Whoop. And you're going to sew it down. And it's about 1/4 of an inch seam. If you're using the zippers from me, you actually can use your regular 1/4 inch foot to stitch, and they'll stitch right along there. If you're not using a zipper from me, you may need to put on your zipper foot. But you know, these zippers, you can use your regular sewing foot. So I'm going to do that to both of these. I've got to grab my other zipper, it's out of the frame, but I'm going to sew it to both of these at the same time. And I know it gets confusing when I do two of them at once, so I'm really only going to give you the directions on this pocket, which is the front. I'm going to do that first to the front pocket zipper, then I'll come back and show you how we go about binding it, then I'll do it to the back zipper. All right, I've sewn my zipper down. You can see it's all stitched down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this over. I'm going to flip this, and then I'm going to stitch this down so that it's nice and flat. But before I do that, I am going to trim this up just a little bit. So I'm just going to take my scissors, and I'm just going to use my fingers to hold it, and I'm going to hold the zipper tape back. And then I can just very easily trim this without having to worry about cutting my zipper or cutting someplace in the fabric that I don't want to. And hopefully you can see what it is that I'm doing. I'll also link the last video that I did that's all about zippers, because that one really has a lot of detail on how I did the zippers, so that you won't have questions about it, okay? Now that I've done that part, I am going to switch over to my zipper foot, because I'm going to flip this over, and then I'm going to use my stiletto to hold this down so that it makes it nice and finished off and you don't see any raw edges. So now that my zipper tape is all down, you can see on this side I've also stitched it down. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my binding strip that I made, and this was just a simple piece of fabric that was folded in half and then a half again. And what that will do is finish off the top of this. Now the only thing that I suggest when you do this is that you try to line it up so there's approximately the same amount of distance from here to here as there is from here to here. Again, I'll show you that. So you want about the same amount of distance from here to here as from here to here, just so that it looks balanced more than anything. There's no reason for it. You just want it to look pretty balanced. So I'm going to put some Wonder Clips on this, holding it down. And then I will take this over to my sewing machine, and I am going to leave my zipper foot on because I want to stitch, and I'll show you where I'm going to be stitching in just a second. I want to do my stitch right here on this edge, all right? So what I will do is I will put my needle all the way to the left so that I can sew right on this edge. So that one's all done. I'm gonna move my zipper now to the middle just so that I don't end up knocking it off. Not that I couldn't rethread it, but, oh, and I already did, look, see it came off. Watch, here's a quick show of how to get it rethreaded. So you just put it back on, slide both in. If it's already on the fabric like this, you really want it open so that you're reconnecting it. So I'm just gonna open it up ahead. Then I will take it, hold it, and put it right back on. And there, I'm back on again. See, they're easy to get on. All right, so my next thing is I need to work on my back pocket. So I am going to, on this back pocket, the only thing we need to do is bind the upper edge. So I'm gonna put my piece of binding on here. Use a couple of my Wonder Clips again. All right, and then I'm just kind of trying to fold it over so that it's on there nicely. I'm gonna get it over, there we go. All right. So the next step is I'm just going to bind this down, but before I bind it down, I'm going to make sure that I put my needle position back to the center. It's time to put our handles on, all right? I'm going to remove that note as to the fact of what this is. Here's a couple of these. Now I'm going to take my handles and I'm going to put my handles on. Now, according to the directions, what we want to do is put them just inside the lines that we made on our bag. So I'm going to do that, and then I am going to stick pins in it, all right? Because I just can't make my Wonder Clips go through that many layers of fabric on the inside. So I'm going to put 2 pins in, one on the top and one on the bottom. All right, now I'm going to do this side. Now look and see. I am making certain that my handle is flat and that my seam from putting my handle fabric together is on the inside. So, and as for the lining it up, what I'm doing is just lining up the very bottom of my handle with the bottom of my bag. Now, I am lining my webbing up with the bottom of my bag. So there's one here, there. We go. And I'm going to do the exact same thing according to my directions on the back of my bag, okay? The other thing that I am going to do is on the directions, it tells me that I need to start stitching a certain amount down from the top edge. So this is how I'm going to stitch this, and I want you to pay attention. Is I'm going to start about here and I'm going to try to stitch right over the stitches that I've already made. I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to go across and then I'm going to come up to the top. When I get directly across from where I started, I'm going to stitch across. Then I'm going to go down diagonally. Then I'm going to go up to where I started and then diagonally again and then back up again. And I will back stitch. And what that's going to do is that's going to create an X right here and right here so that I reinforce the top of these handles. And I'll show you what it looks like when I get done. So you can see, I think you can see at least, This is the front of my bag, and I've got my handles on, and they're all sewn down. And this is the back of my bag, and again, my handles are all sewn down. I have left this piece of paper on there so that I know that that is the back of my. So the next step in our little thing here is you need to take the inner pocket pieces and you need to put your interfacing in. Now make certain that you get it close to your fold. That's the first thing. And the second thing, please note that there is going to be space all the way around it. So then once you've done that, it wants you to top stitch it down. I am going to attach this piece of twill tape. What I'm going to do is just top stitch this down because I want it there so that I can label the sizes that are in each pocket, okay? To hold it in place, I am probably going to very carefully pin it because twill tape does move. It's like a polyester. I think it's, in fact, I think it's all polyester. So I'm just going to put a couple pins in here to hold it in place, and then I am going to top stitch that right down so that it's there, and I'm all set. And I'll top stitch it this way, and then I will also do the other side of it. So do that on both my pockets. In the directions, it gives you a suggestion of how far to put the stitching that's going to go this way when you're attaching it. I am actually going to be doing mine some different sizes. So she does give you dimensions for crochet hooks, and then she also gives you dimensions for interchangeable knitting needles. So that's up to you to decide. You can either follow her directions or you can do whatever you want to do. All right, this is the inside of my front pocket, and I have lines that are about a 1/2 inch. I've got one that's a full inch, then some 3/4 inch, and then a couple more 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the inside of my pocket, my inside pocket, to the inside of the front of my bag. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side of my bag. I haven't marked this one yet. I'm probably going to mark this one all 3/4 inch and a full inch, so that if I ever get needles that you can, interchangeable needles, then I can use it on that side. So I'm going to get both of those sewn down, and I will come back and show you how that looks. All right, I want to show you what I ended up doing. So this is the side that has a bunch of different sizes. Oops, sorry. So I've got some 1/2 inch ones, I've got some 1 inch one, some 3/4 inch one. So those are all on that side. This is the front of my bag. Then the next thing I've done is I've taken my zippered pocket and I pinned it down here and here, made sure that my zipper pull was inside the center, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch across here, then I'm going to stitch all the way around this at 1/8 inch from the edge. All right, so I'll stitch let me move this side out. There. So I'll stitch all the way around 1/8 inch all the way. Now, when I sewed these, what I did was I started at the bottom, I sewed up, did a needle down, turned around and sewed back. So they've all been sewn twice. All right. You may find that it bunches a little bit, the fabric. If it does, I want to show you what it looks like when I started at the top. On this one, I started at the top, I sewed down, and I came back up again. Looks exactly the same, so whichever way is easiest for you. Now on this one, all of mine are spaced 3/4 inch apart. They from one side to the other. So that's what I decided I wanted to do on this side, and on this one I did obviously a different side. So on my pocket front, or my bag front, I'm going to top stitch 1/8 inch all the way across here to hold my zippered pocket down. Then I'm going to stitch all the way around, making certain that my zipper slide right here is inside so that I can open my zipper up. Then I'm going to set this one aside and show you the next one. Now this is my back. I'm going to take my piece. Now on this one it's just a pocket, so I don't want to sew across the top. So instead I'm going to lay my piece down and I'm going to put Wonder Clips all the way around. And on this one I'm just going to stitch on these 3 sides of 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And then my 2 pockets will be ready and will be completed. Our next step is going to be to get the inside of our bag ready. So that's what I'm going to start doing as soon as I get this done. So I will be back once I get these stitched. I'll stitch these, set them aside, then we're going to pull out our inside of our bag, and then we'll go from there. So I'll see you in just a few minutes. I have sewn down my outside pockets. The next thing I need to do is I need to trim the edges. I need to circle it. And this is a 2.5 inch, and I'm just gonna line it up here, use my friction pen, and I'm just gonna draw around that on all 4 corners. Make sure I'm still in view here. And then I will take my Karen K. Buckley scissors and I will just trim it. Just as easily as that, just trim it. And then I will go back through and I will stitch that down again. Then after I've stitched it down, then I'm going to move on to the next part of our bag, which is our inside pocket. So I'll be back in just a few minutes, in a second or two in your time, but it's going to take me a couple minutes to sew this down and then read my next step over again, and then I will be back. The bags are really almost done. We're absolutely positively almost there, which is majorly exciting. So I'm just going to top stitch around these 4 corners, and then we'll be back to work on the next piece of our bag. All right, I'm going to set up a couple of steps that need to be done next. The next thing that needs to be done is on the right side of the fabric of your pocket. This is the inside pocket piece. I need to attach the hook and loop. This is the soft side to my lining pocket, my inside pocket. And Annie does suggest that you stitch around it twice, and I will stitch around it twice without exception. Then once I've done that, I need to take my 2 vinyl pieces and I need to attach my zippers. Now, in the last video, I went into a huge amount of detail on how you attach zippers. So if you're not certain how to do it, please go back and review that one. And I'll put a card someplace in here. I don't know if it'll be up there or down here or where it'll be, but I'll stick a card in there so that you can go find it. So what I'm going to do is start by just putting my Wonder Clips on here to attach it down. And then I'm going to do that to both of my vinyl pocket pieces. And then I'm going to sew them down and just follow the instructions exactly how Annie tells you to. And I'm going to do that to both pieces. So when I come back, what I'm going to have done is my pocket pieces, my vinyl pockets are going to have my zippers on it. And my Velcro is going to be attached to my inside pocket so that that's ready to go. We are truthfully almost done with our bags. We are down to the very last steps. In fact, I skipped a step. I was supposed to actually put the zipper piece, the inside zipper band on before I did this piece, and what I wanted to do was get the inside pocket done first. So here we go. I'm going to get this down, and then I will be back in just a minute to do some more stuff. Oh, I know what the other thing is I need to do. I also need to put the binding on my inside mesh piece. So I'll be sewing my Velcro down, the zippers down to my 2 pieces, putting my binding on my mesh, and I also have 2 binding strips that will be attached to my zipper. So I'll get all that done, then I'll be back. All right, so the next step that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my mesh. My mesh belongs on this side of my piece, and I am going to line it up based on where they say to, and then I'm gonna have to trim it. I have already attached the binding. The next thing I need to do is trim it down, attach my next strip of binding, which is right here. And then what I will do is attach it down on the sides, because we don't attach down the ends because there's no zippers, okay? So I'm gonna first measure based on what in the directions it says I need to have lengthwise. Then I'll cut, attach my binding, and then stitch it down. Once I stitch it down in the directions, it does say to make some specific stitch marks, and I will also make those so that I'm totally done on this side. Then we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna attach our vinyl pockets that we've already made. So I'll be back when the mesh side is done, and I'm going to then attach the pockets. All right, so I have attached my mesh pockets. In the directions, she said to leave one hole open, and not to stitch in the center of one of them. I wanted both of mine stitched down because what I'm gonna put in there are my circular needles. I'm fine with that. So I stitched both sides of mine down. So now I'm gonna flip it over, and I am now going to put my vinyl pockets down. And what I will be doing is I'm going to line it up. I'm gonna stitch my top down and my bottom down, then I'm gonna do my sides. But what that will do is give me the ability to keep my zip out of the way, my zipper head out of the way while I do my top especially. Then I'll slide it in and do my two sides. Now we've got two zippered pockets here. So there's 1, 2, I'm gonna do it with both of them, and then I will be back, because our very last step is actually to bind it and to round the corners and bind it. And then the next thing we're going to do is work on putting our entire bag together. It's down to 4 pieces. So the next step will be to put it all together. See you then. I have trimmed my bag. I've squared it this way. So now I need to round my corners. So what I'm gonna do is flip it over this way. Here's my inside. And I'm just gonna take my little spool that I always use. It's about a 2.5 inch diameter. I'm just gonna use my little friction pen to draw around that little corner. It's really not much of a curve, just enough to really allow us to ease that binding through. So I'm doing these 4, and then I am going to stitch my binding down, and I will show you what that looks like. Now when I go to attach my binding, I am going to attach it on the opposite side from what I'm working on right now. And I'll show you in just a second. Just let me get this trimmed up for us. So here we go, nice trim, nice easy curve to work with, which will make a big difference to us when we're putting the binding on. It will really help. So how I'm going to attach the binding is I'm going to start it on this side, okay? Then I will flip it over to this side, because more than likely I will end up hand stitching it down. So here is my binding. It's all been made. And I'm just going to take it over to here, and I am going to wonder clip it down. I'm going to start about here, because remember I need this additional little tail here to be able to connect my binding. So I'm just going to run some binding clips around that. And I will sew that down, and then I will be hand stitching it down on the other side. I just think it gives it that much of a nicer, cleaner look. So I will be doing that. So here we go. Just gonna, hopefully you can still see me. Trying to keep me in camera focus. Trying to, at least. So here we go. Right around the corner here. Oh, okay, I see what that is now. There we go. Again, just going around the corner. All right, so there is my piece. I will actually attach this binding and then make the adjustments here when I'm at the sewing machine. So I'm just gonna I'll hack that off right here at this seam, and then I will put this together. But I wanted to show you what I did. When I was putting this all together, I decided that I wanted one more set of pockets. So I actually did make another set. So this, for me, is going to lay inside of this, just like this. And you can see it's a little bit smaller, and there's a reason why it is. It's a little bit smaller so that when I go to close it up, and I'll show you what it looks like. Got my little clips here. It's gonna go like this, and see, now it will be much nicer at the top. And I do believe that there will be room in it. I really wanted that extra set for my knitting needles, because I like to use the one long cable knitting needles. So that was why I did it like that. So I also have to bind this piece. So that's the next one I will do. I will get the binding on both of these. And then once I get the binding, hopefully there's enough on this one. Nope, there's not quite enough. I will get the binding on both of these. And then once I've done that, then I'm gonna go back to the bag and keep right on going, because we're almost done. It's almost there. We're getting down to the last few steps. So I'm gonna add to this piece of binding and get it attached to this one and this one, and then I'll be back to show you the next step. All right, now I am going to attach the zipper portion, which is this. I'm sorry if it's a little out of focus. I'm trying to keep it in focus. So what I did was I found the center, see the pin right here, of the front of my bag, the center front bottom, the center front top, the center front bottom, and the center front top of my fabric. So what I'm going to do is put lining sides together. So this is my lining side, and this is my lining side. This is my bottom center. So I'm gonna line these up, and I'm gonna put clips on it. So I'll use my Wonder Clips. And then how I'm gonna attach it is I'm going to put it on my sewing bed like this, so that it's down. And what I will probably do is start sewing right up here, and I'll sew down, around, and up and across. That's how I think I'm gonna do it. If I do it differently than that, I will come back and tell you. But right now, that's how I think I'm gonna do it. And remember, whenever we get to these corners, this is something that we just kind of ease it in. And we pinch it down, and then we use these great Wonder Clips, which just kind of keep it all together for us, okay? So here we go. I'm gonna get this done. And, was I supposed to? Oh, I forgot to round these top ones too. I forgot to round those. So now I gotta round those quickly. So I'll get those rounded. Don't forget to round your tops like I did, okay? We need our tops and our bottoms rounded. So let me get these done too. See, every once in a while we all get excited where we're at and we forget to do small steps that we were supposed to do. So there's my one corner and here's my other corner. So put these pieces away. There we go. So where was I? I was this corner. Okay, so I'm just going to keep bringing it right around. And this might be a little, difficult coming around these corners, but if you go slow, I know you can do it. Because if I can do it, anybody can do it. Honestly. I'm not, I mean, these are pretty simple bags. Annie has great directions, and she tells you step by step by step exactly what to do. So it makes it really easy to put things like this together. Right. You do use a lot of Wonder Clips, I will tell you that, right off the bat. See how I just eased that right in? It's working out great. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. I'll go back this way now, and I'm going to line this all up. I may run out of Wonder Clips. I may have to go scrounging some more up. Well, I guess I'm not going to. I really like So thank you so much for sticking around to the end. This is my bag, and I am going to stuff it full of all of my different knitting needles. I'll show you my knitting needles. These are my Addie. I like the Turbo Lace the best. I find that when I work with the regular knitting needles, I drop stitches all the time. So, and then you can see I've put a couple of my crochet hooks in here, not all of them, but I've stuck a few in here. So I'm really excited. I have this old set of lace crochet hooks. I'll see if I can get it open for you. Well, maybe it'll come open. Yep, it'll come open. And they are just every single size you can imagine. They're all the way down to what looks like maybe a 10. I'm not sure. But I just am so excited because now I have a really safe place to keep these crochet hooks. So I'll put the lid back on that. I want to show you what I did that was a little bit different. And I also want to show you what I'm going to change if I ever make this again. So the first thing, this is the section that Annie told you about. And here is how my piece just kind of Velcros in and out. If you want to put a stiff cardboard piece down here at the bottom, you can slip a piece right in here. I'm finding that it is standing up on its own. I'm not going to put a piece in. I'm fine with it the way it is. I've got a nice pocket on one side and then a nice zippered pocket on the other side, which I'm really excited about. Now, when I made my bag, this was the only insert, just this one insert. I made an additional insert, and how I made mine was I used the exact same sizing for this piece, okay? And I just used mesh on both sides, all right? One of the things I am gonna try to do is see this line of stitching here. I am gonna try to take it out. I followed the directions exactly, and on this piece, we did have that additional stitching because we had to adhere the binding down. Well, I don't have any binding on the opposite side of this one to have to stitch down. So I probably am going to take that one thing of top stitching here and this one here. And what it will do is just give me a little bit deeper pockets so that then my knitting needles in their original case would fit right in there. So what I will probably do is take these out of their bag. I'll show you. And I will slip this right into the pocket and see if I can take that out. What will happen is it'll go all the way down to the bottom. So I will have my key of what my size is and where my knitting needle is. So I will stay all nice and organized. So feel free to go ahead and make an additional pocket for yours. How I attached it was I simply, I broke a stitch, so I'll have to fix that. But I simply just top stitched the two layers together. That's all I did, and it's holding it together just fine. I must not have back stitched right there. So there's the piece. It's all nicely together, and I am good to go. So I'm really excited about this bag. I've never had one place where all my knitting needles and all my crochet hooks could be. So now I do have a place. Now, I will go back and label these because what will happen is this will give me the ability to know which crochet hook is missing. A lot of us tend to be using the crochet hooks, and then this way we'll know exactly which one's already in a project. So this is my case and point bag, and I just think it's adorable. I'm very happy with how it came out. So thank you so much for sticking around and watching how I put together my bag. Please don't forget to post pictures of your completed bag on our Facebook group page. The Facebook page is called Margaret Lewin Quilting. And don't forget to pop on out to my website. There are Notion kits available. So everything that you need to make the bag Notions wide is in there. I also have a couple, not many, fabric kits available. I think I'm down to 3 or maybe 2. So make sure you pop on out and get a fabric kit. And don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter while you're out there. Don't forget to check out Instagram and follow me over there, and you'll get updates during the week of all the neat little projects that I'm working on. I'll see you again really soon, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.